Okay, welcome. Our third mentorship program with Rabbi Friedman. For me, it's a huge, huge honor. I remember one of the first times we met him was at David Suisse's office with couscous and chicken. And you had a much more G-rated version of the topic, but it was how is intimacy different than chicken soup or something like that, which is a whole bunch of new memories and good things. Today, we're going to probably kick another one of my dreams out the window. Our last conversation was life, liberty, and the pursuit of happiness, where I thought that life was making a lot of money, which will give you the liberty to do what you want to do, which will allow you to pursue true happiness, and I no longer believe that. And today's talk is about being proud Jew is all about making money, 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 thus being happy, happy, happy. So let's see how that works out. Money, money, money. First of all, is it okay to want a lot of money?
Absolutely.
It's not greedy or gross or...
Yeah, it is.
But it's okay. As long as you give to it's good to know. 20% of all profits.
Wealth is a positive thing. How you go about it, what it means in the bigger picture, in your value system, that's a different question. But wealth itself is a good thing. People should be wealthy. One of the things that is going to happen when Mashiach comes is the world will be so wealthy we won't even need to work. So that's a positive, good thing.
So how does one go about making a lot of money?
You're asking the wrong person.
Yeah.
Don't do what I do what I say. We're asking you to say, we're not following your lead. So
the truth is that we live in a very wealthy time, in a very wealthy little piece of history. The amount of money that people have that is staggering, way beyond need. We were just reading in the Torah how God provided food for the people in the desert. The manna, 1 day's need per day. You never had more than you needed for that day. Which, by the way, is a beautiful thing, because it's as if God wanted to give us breakfast in bed every morning. He didn't create like with the water. God picked a rock, and that rock gave water for 40 years. But with the food, he didn't pick a tree, for example, that would give food for 40 years. He didn't find a way that one miracle would provide the food for 40 years. Instead, he created a new miracle every morning, exactly for that day, not less and not more. It's like he wanted to serve us every single day. But the point is, it was enough for that day. Why do you need more food than you're going to eat today? That's not wealth. Wealth means you have much more than your need, much more than the demand. And then the question is, so what are you going to do with it? But I think we live in a time when almost everyone has more than necessary for survival. Of course, there are hungry people in the world. But in our experience, the people we deal with, the people we know, everyone has more than they need for that day. And this wasn't always the case. Our grandparents back in Europe or in the East, they went out every day to make money for that day, to have what to eat for that day. And if they had for 2 or 3 days, wow. Today, we can't even relate to that experience. So, wealth is a good thing. It leaves you free to pursue other things. The problem is when we start to worship wealth and we make an idol out of it, then of course it's going to fail and disappoint us. So this Rebbe asked his Chassid, so do you find time to study every day? He says, Rebbe, I got to send my kid to school. You know what tuition is. I got to work. I got to pay. I got to send my kid to learn. So the Rebbe spoke to the kid after the kid grew up and said, do you learn? You have time to study every day? He says, my kid. I got to pay for my kid's learning. I said, when do we stop paying for somebody else's learning? When do we get to do our own learning? So we're always passing the buck. Somebody, the wealth has to free you, not enslave you. So the Mishnah says, who is wealthy? Ezehu Ashir? Hasameach b'chalko. Which is really, it needs explanation. Because the person who is content with what he has is not wealthy. You started off asking who's wealthy, and then you tell me who's happy. So a poor guy who's happy is considered rich. Come on, that's not honest. You asked who is rich. Now you're telling me you don't have to be rich, you just have to be happy. You're not answering the original question. And secondly, if you're content with what you have, you'll never be rich. That is not the character or the personality of a rich person. If you're content with what you have, you won't get rich. Unless you have a rich uncle who dies and leaves you all the money. I think the meaning of the Mishnah is like this. There are very wealthy people. And today there are many wealthy people. Now, who knows how to be rich? Among the rich people, the one is content with his lot. See, it doesn't say content with his money. If you're content with the money you have, you'll never get rich. The Mishnah is saying, if you know how to handle your wealth, you are happy with what you have. Because when you don't know how to handle the wealth, when you get rich, all of a sudden your house is not good enough, your community is not good enough, your wife is not good enough, your husband's not good enough, your children are interfering, they're just getting in the way, they're a burden. So your whole life is no longer acceptable because you're rich. Even your rabbi is no longer. You need a new rabbi, you need a new wife, you need a new house, you need a new car. Why? Because you can. Then the wealth is destroying you. So we should not be content with how much money we have, if you want to be rich. But you should be content with your life. What's wrong with your life? It was good until you got rich and now it's no good anymore. That destroys you. So when you start worshiping wealth, then you become a victim. But if you're open to being wealthy, to having time to do good things, of course, wealth is a very good thing. Everybody should be wealthy.
That was very beautiful, but not answering my question. So, an example. I have taken upon myself that for every dollar that comes into my company, I have a very clear piece of paper right by my deposit slips that every time a certain amount comes in, a certain percentage goes to tzedakah. And I keep an accounting. Every time I write a check, I take it down. And I've done that now twice in my career, and that specific action has really boosted the amount of income I make. Any practical tips like that you'd like to share for making a lot of money?
It's not a good idea to make deals with God. If you give me X amount of dollars, I'll give X amount of... Don't do that. God doesn't need deals. He just needs goodness. If you're a good person, He'll give you the wealth and He'll trust you to do good things. But no deals. Don't promise anything.
But don't we all in this generation feel we're not good people? If that's really the deal. Or am I just alone?
No, I think people are good. People are
People
good.
think they're good.
Look, the wealthiest people are the ones who are giving the most charity, simply because what else are they going to do with it? They've got so much money, it's ridiculous. So it's not even a question of how compassionate are you and how pious are you. It's just a normal thing. People want to share. People want to give back. We are good enough for that. So we don't have to make deals with God. And that's true, I think, in many areas of life. Like if you're an artist and you produce art, you don't have to paint a picture of a Torah every now and then, you know what I mean, to make your art holy. Art is good as art. And if your Jewishness comes through your art, fine. But there's no condition. You can be an artist if you paint Torahs. You can sing if you sing about a psalm. What's right and good stands on its own. You don't have to justify it. You don't have to promise anything in exchange for being wealthy, because God wants us all to be wealthy. He wants us all to be talented. He wants us all to be capable, because it's good. How you're going to use all that depends on who you are, what you are, your value system, your upbringing, your community. But don't make deals with God. He doesn't need it. He doesn't need a deal like, if you give me children, I'll raise them properly. He wants you to have children. You don't have to promise anything. Of course, you're going to raise them properly if you're a proper human being. But no deals with God. Except for one exception. If, God forbid, a child is not well, and you want to give charity on the condition that he will recover, that's acceptable. But wealth does not need to be justified.
Does money bring happiness?
Money brings happiness. No?
Definitely.
Definitely. I think we've spoke about this once before, but I gotta repeat this. What is the definition of a healthy human being? If you ask medical experts, what is the definition of a healthy human being? They don't know. Which is really scary, because they're the medical experts. But they don't have a definition for what healthy means. Basically, things are decided by statistic. If most people can walk a mile without getting exhausted, and you can't, then statistically you need some help. Because most people can. That's not a definition. That's just a statistic. So this one doctor 200 years ago came up with this incredible, simple, but profound definition. Here it goes. The healthy individual is someone whose body is in perfect balance, so that it doesn't interfere with the intelligent mind, leaving the mind free to pursue the purpose for which we exist.
Okay, and the purpose for which we exist. That was a great teaser. What is the purpose for which we exist?
No, but before we get to that,
Oh, wait, no, I want to know. I've been waiting a long time for that.
a healthy person is someone whose body does not interfere with the mind, leaving the mind free to pursue the purpose for which we exist. This is a medical definition, which means practically, you call a doctor and you say, "Doctor, I woke up this morning, my legs are paralyzed, I can't walk." If he's a good doctor, he should ask you, "Where do you need to go?" So imagine a guy calls a doctor, "I can't walk." And the doctor says, "Well, where do you need to go?" And the guy says, "Well, actually, I got no place to go." So the doctor says, "Fine, That's it. Got no place to go and you can't go? Perfect. If you have some place to go and you can't, then you got a problem. But you have no place to go, so don't go. Like that joke, you know. It hurts when I go like this, so don't go like this. You know? So a person calls up, doctor, I can't breathe. Doctor should say, you need to breathe? Actually, no. Okay, so fine, so don't breathe. If there is a purpose for which we exist, and something is preventing you from getting there, that's called illness. If there is no purpose for which you exist, you have no appointment with God at Mount Sinai, then stay in Egypt. What's your problem? So health is defined by the purpose for which, the higher purpose for which we exist. If you don't believe there is a higher purpose, then you can't be ill. Because whatever you can do, do. If you can't do, don't do. You can walk, walk. You can't walk, don't walk. You can hear, fine. You don't hear. You can breathe, breathe. You don't breathe, don't breathe. Without a higher purpose, there's no such thing as healthy or unhealthy. So, how does money make you happy? It allows your mind to pursue the higher purpose for which you exist.
And the higher purpose is?
Unless you think that having the money is the purpose, and then you're running around in circles chasing your tail. So how does money make you happy? It relieves you of a distraction, of a concern, so that your mind is free to pursue the purpose for which you exist. Now here's another futuristic concept. For many years, psychology has told us that if you're not happy, if you're not functioning properly, it's because you have some deep-seated frustration or fear or shame that needs to be resolved. If you can find your unresolved need, if you can dig deep and discover what need is unfulfilled, you will then be a healthy human being. The Torah is way ahead of the times. The Torah says, if you look inside and you find that you're needy and that you're frustrated because you don't have this, you don't have that, I need this, I need that. If that's what you find when you look inside, you're not looking properly. Go a little deeper. Go a little deeper beyond these needs that paralyze you, and you will discover that you have no needs. You have no needs. The truth of a human being, our true state of our psyches, we have no needs. For the simple reason, we are not the creator. Only a creator has needs that motivates him to create. The creation has no need. That make sense?
No.
It's like, if I were not created...
Yeah, but a flower is created and has a need for water.
Right. But the need for water doesn't come from the flower. It comes from God. Stones don't need water. Flowers do. Why? Why? Because that's how God created it. So when God creates me, He creates me with needs. But they're not my needs. And that's why, like I said, I need to eat. No, I need to stop eating. But I can't. I need to sleep. Actually, I need to wake up. But I can't. Because I've been up for 8 hours. So these needs that we think we have, they're only part of the challenge or the condition, the handicap that God creates us with. So really, I need to eat is a misnomer. He needs me to eat. I don't know why. Well, I can figure it out. But he needs me to eat. As far as I'm concerned, I would be perfectly happy if I never eat. Because I would be perfectly happy if I was never created. So when you hear children today saying, I don't care, I didn't ask to be born, and you think this is a damaged child, this kid is suicidal, this kid is very depressed. It doesn't have to be. What the child is saying is what philosophers 1,000 years ago sat around talking about and puzzling over. Do we need to live? Do we need to be created? Is life a blessing? Is life not a blessing? Here the 11-year-old today intuitively says, but I didn't ask to be born. So I have to clean my room? You see how this works? You tell your child, clean your room. So, clean my room? I didn't even need to be born. So someone's like, look, I'm doing you a favor just existing. On top of that, I have to clean my room? The truth is, and this is going to become the new psychology any day now, the truth of the human being is, we don't need anything because we didn't ask to be born. So whatever difficulties I'm facing, whatever challenges I'm facing, this is all God's plan. It has nothing to do with me. I didn't ask to be born. The Gemara puts it in even more dramatic language. You are conceived against your will, you're born against your will, you live against your will, and you die against your will. So what else you want?
So happiness is out the window.
No, on the contrary.
Oh.
When you get to that point inside of yourself where you don't need anything, what, me worry? Remember? What was his name? Mad Magazine? Was it? It wasn't that long ago. Who was the character in Mad Magazine? Alfred E. Newman. And his famous statement or famous saying was, what, me worry? What have I got to lose? So when you have no needs, you are completely happy. Why then do you exist? Because somebody needs you. Can you imagine if you had no needs, but somebody needed you? I mean, if that's not heaven, I don't know what is. And that's why being alive on earth is the true heaven. What happens when the soul goes up to paradise or whatever, that's a holding pattern. That's not real heaven. Real heaven is, I have no needs, but you need something from me? Hey, that is the biggest blessing in the world. God needs me because he created me. I don't need anything because I didn't ask to be created. So psychology has gone not quite deep enough. Yes, you have many frustrations, but go a little deeper and there are no frustrations because you're only here to serve him. Answering your question. What is the higher purpose for which we exist? What is a higher purpose? It sounds nice, but what does it mean? I have my needs. God has his needs. Which is the higher purpose? His needs are eternal. His needs are infinite. His needs are real. That's a higher purpose. So if I can do what he needs, I'm in heaven.
And what does he need?
He tells us 613 things.
He needs me to daven. He needs me to say a bracha before I eat. He needs that stuff.
What he really needs in one sentence is, he needs you. He needs to have you. Every time you serve him, every time you talk to him, every time you think about him, he has you. Can we talk a little theology here for a minute?
I don't know. Yeah.
The ultimate mystery of God is not how he creates the world and how he keeps it going. The ultimate mystery of God is he is perfect, he is almighty, he is eternal, and he creates the world. That is the biggest mystery of all. What does he create the world for? Nothing. Because if he's creating the world for something, then he's not perfect. If he needs something, then he's not perfect. But before he created the world, he was already perfect. So why did he create the world? For what? The answer is for nothing. He created the world for someone, not for something. So here's the mystery. A being that is absolutely perfect and therefore needs nothing does need someone. So here, imagine you're God, you're perfect, you're eternal, you're almighty, you're all-powerful, all-knowing, and you think to yourself, am I the only, it's just me? Yes, I'm perfect, but there's just me. And that's not acceptable. So God creates an other. Why does one being need another if you're already perfect? That's the mystery. That is the ultimate mystery. When you need nothing, you need someone. We can't figure out why. But it's so true. So when you get married, so we're going back to marriage, when you get married, it's because you're already perfect. Now it's time for someone else besides you. So you don't need anything from your spouse. That's not what you get married for. You need someone to love you? You don't need marriage for that. You don't need something from your spouse. You need another besides you in your life. Because just you, as perfect as you are, is not enough. Where do we get this from? From God himself. For some strange, mysterious reason, being God is not enough. So a person who says, well, I don't need anybody. I'm perfect. Now, you're not God. God is perfect, and he needs someone. And that's us.
There's a question I want to ask. I'm afraid we'll get a long answer. Now.
Okay, short answers from now on.
No, this one, and then the last one is the next one, the long one. Why are people afraid? Where does fear come from?
Where does fear come from? Everything starts off being positive, and then it deteriorates. God didn't create anything that is purely bad. He creates something, and it kind of works its way down until it becomes negative, right? So what is fear? Fear is basically humility.
What is that?
Humility. The feeling of smallness. I'm an insignificant creature. I'm a tiny piece of reality. And that's very humbling. There's nothing negative about that. In fact, if you go through a humiliating experience, what is the solution? Instead of being humiliated, be humbled. Humiliated is painful and destructive. Humbled is strengthening and healthy. So why do you have to be humiliated when you can be humbled? So something happens to you that's embarrassing. What does that prove? You slipped on a banana peel in front of a bunch of people, and they all laughed, and you're humiliated. You don't have to be humiliated. Just be humbled. A banana peel can bring you flat on your... Okay, that's a human being. We're small, we're fragile, we're insignificant. Yeah, that's all true. When you fight that, you don't want to be insignificant. You don't want to be humble. You don't want to be fragile. Then you develop fear. Fear means I'm afraid to face my own fallibility. If I'm not afraid to face my fallibility, I have no fears. People who've gone through a near-death experience, people who've been to war and survived, they're not afraid. They face their own vulnerability, they face their own mortality, and they're not afraid of it anymore. Now they're humble. So anytime you have a fear, my father used to tell me this all the time, if you have a fear, fear God, and the other fears will go away. Fear God means be humble.
So let's get specific. Somebody's business is not going well. He's under tremendous pressures, borrowing from everybody, and the tap is kind of ending, and he fears losing his house to foreclosure, and that will lead to X, Y, and Z, and he fears that as well. So when that person comes to you and says, I have this fear, what do you tell him to tell himself?
It is possible. It could happen. We are not invulnerable. We could get hurt financially, we could get hurt many ways. But what will decide whether I do get hurt or not? I mean, you cross the street, are you worried? Your child learned how to drive. Are you worried? Your teenager is driving a car for the first time. Are you worried? Yes. Of course you're worried, because who knows what could happen? Of all the things that could happen, what decides of all those possibilities, what is going to happen? If you think it's random, if you think there's no rhyme or reason, then yes, you're going to be terrified permanently about everything. But if you know that the world is conducted and orchestrated from above, everything that has happened to this moment in all of human history was orchestrated by a divine plan, and the plan goes on. It's very comforting. So of all the things that might happen, what's going to happen is what God decides. If He decides, it's not so bad.
One of my favorite things about interviewing you is that whenever you ask a question and I have no idea what the answer is, I just shut up for a second and then you answer on your own. So please keep that going as we get to the next question. I think there's a lot of people who unjustifiably don't have confidence in themselves. And I think in the Jewish religion specifically, Jewish society specifically, many people are not willing to accept their uniqueness and their mission. And as such, many are assimilating, many are not identifying Jewish, many are, I am a nobody, I am not a chosen, I am not important, I am not. First of all, do you agree with that? And secondly, what makes a proud Jew? What does a Jewish person need to wake up thinking?
It's much easier to be a proud Jew than to be a proud individual. Because to be a proud Jew means you're proud to be one of the people, the chosen people, the glorious people with the glorious history. So to be proud of your people is much easier than to be proud of yourself. Because as a people, we've accomplished so much. As an individual, we're still trying. We're still hoping. The best expression of Jewish pride is when you get somebody else to feel Jewish pride. It's like if you really love somebody, you get others to love the same person. It's not just personal. If you really love somebody, you want everybody to love him. If you're really proud to be a Jew, then you want everyone to be proud of their Jewishness, including non-Jews. Our goal, don't say it out loud, but our goal in fixing the world, elevating the world, bringing Mashiach, the goal is to make non-Jews proud of Jews. Make any sense? The only way we're going to have peace, the only solution to anti-Semitism, is when the world, non-Jewish world, is proud to be part of this amazing creation in which we are the chosen people. When non-Jews are proud of Jews, we will have peace. We will have a very good world. So we want to make Jews proud of themselves as Jews, and we want to make the world proud as being the world in which Jews conduct this incredible relationship with God. Like guests at a wedding. Why do people come to a wedding? Aside for the food. You're not getting married. Why are you coming to this wedding? You dress up, you come, and then at some point you're told to go home. Because you're not getting married. So you can go home now. So what'd you come for? And why do the people who are getting married invite the whole community? They're getting married, nobody else. So what is this thing called wedding? Go off quietly and get married. It's private, it's personal. What are you inviting the whole community for?
Yeah, present.
It seems like the marriage is not complete unless everyone thinks it's a wonderful thing. So if the whole community is not thrilled about your marriage, it's not perfect. Unless the whole world is thrilled with the relationship that Jews have with God and God has with Jews, if the whole world is not celebrating it, then there's still anti-Semitism. If you won't come to my wedding, that's anti-Semitism. So the perfect world is not only when Jews are proud to be Jews, when the whole world is proud to be in the world with Jews. That'll take a little work, but we'll get there. What does it mean to be a proud Jew? There are hundreds of books, great Jews in history, the who's who of Jewish. And who are we proud of? And what are we proud of? Number one, Einstein. Number two, Woody Allen. Number three, Barbra Streisand.
Oh, I like that.
Right? If you're a little more sophisticated, you go to Isaac Stern, to,
Yaron Hassid.
We're proud of the fact that we won a war in 6 days against 4 armies. Very proud. We're proud of almost everything besides our Jewishness. We're proud of some Jews who have talent. To be a proud Jew, you have to be proud of your Jewishness. Which means you have to be proud of the fact that you keep Shabbos. Or should. Just that alone. We were given the mitzvah of Shabbos. We should be proud of that. You should be proud of the fact that our sages taught the world wisdom. Rabbi Akiva, Hillel, the Baal Shem Tov, the Rambam. That's our pride. Because only we have that. The ability to sing, we have that too. But we're not the only ones who sing well. We're not the only ones who play violin well. We're not even the only ones who play chess well. There's some non-Jews who are pretty good. So what should we be proud of? The fact that we're still Jewish. We have this relationship with God. He never quit. We never quit. It's amazing. And if the world does not appreciate it, it's because they're not looking. Anyone who looks at Jewish history has got to be impressed with the Jewishness of it. So as we're sitting here talking, what is good mentoring, and what is good counseling, and what is good success, and what is wealth? There's a certain Jewish element to this that is more important than all the rest. The reason we have to go to work, this is a divine secret. The reason you work for a living, the reason you have to meet people in order to make money, is because meeting those people is your mission in life. And you won't meet them if you're not in this business, the business that you're in. So recently I was talking to this woman who has a job, very good job. She's a financial whatever. And she sits a lot with a computer and works at numbers. And she's saying how she's frustrated because she wants to help people. She wants to be a doctor, she wants to be a teacher, to help people. And she's asking me for advice. I said, can you become a doctor tomorrow? She says, no. So you're going to become a teacher this year? No. Wherever you are, even if you work with numbers, whose numbers are you working with? Somebody. You're working in an office with somebody. There's where you have to help people. Wherever you are, wherever your job brings you, wherever the money takes you, the money trail, you're going to meet people. Those are the people you're supposed to help. And for her to be thinking, I got to change my job and help a lot of people. Start with the people that are in your life now. This wishful thinking, if I was a teacher, I'd help a lot of people. But you're not. You're sitting in an office. Let's say there are 9 people working in that office. You want to affect people. You want to help people. Well, there are 9 people. What have you done so far? So like the Indians say, blossom where you're planted. The reason you have a job is to meet the people you're meeting. What good effect can you have on them? How can you increase Jewish pride in yourself and in them? By your interactions, by your having lunch, by your coffee breaks. That's the main reason. The money is icing on the cake.
Very, very blessed to know you. Very, very blessed to know your children. I hope to get permission from your son to put 2 songs at the end of this video, which were the inspiration of this whole conversation. The first one is Yesh Tikva, which talks about fear and overcoming fear by believing in God. And the second one, which is one of my favorites of the kids, is Ani Ivriya Anochi.
Ivriya Anochi.
How to be a proud Jew and how to celebrate Jewishness. And I hope we'll have the honor of hosting you again and hosting your family and seeing the continued growth.